Hi, and this is an update on Ocean. So far, so good. So, I promise to be sharing updates on Ocean and how much is growing. It's basically a tool to manage an enterprise, like an organization based on activities and then keeping inventory, especially for the IT department. So, last week I shared on the structure and procedures that I'll be using, and this is built with Django as like the framework, the core framework. The update so far is the user configuration and also purchasing. Okay, so before there was no option for a user to edit your profile. Like if you are a client using this application, you don't have an option to edit your profile. But in right now in this scenario, okay, a user has an option to edit their profile by changing their names and some other stuff like profile picture, email address, phone number, and about them. Now this is okay. This works now. It's functioning proper, and also the module that I focused on for the whole week was the purchasing. Okay, because if you are in an organization, as I stated earlier on in the tweet above, or like in my explanations before this, there are sometimes you need to purchase items. Okay, maybe I'm short of toner cartridges and then I need a couple. Now, traditionally, what we do is you just call who is in charge to authorize the purchase, like maybe the accountant or a manager, and then the manager will be like, okay, fine, okay, you give me this list, that's okay, you can go ahead to purchase it. Okay, now that is fine, that works. But using technology or using Ocean, it makes it simple. Here, you can come and make a purchase request. Okay, when you make a purchase order, that's a request to purchase an item. You share it with with the person who is supposed to approve it, and when the document is approved you can go ahead to purchase. Now after purchase, the next module is receiving the items, which is like a goods receiving note. Now that's the next module I'll be working on, because when you purchase the item and then it's in, you have to acknowledge that I've received this item, and also with the acknowledging it's supposed to adjust the stock. That is supposed to be the goal of receiving the goods. So just a quick one. Let's go to the user profile. You realize I have a cool drop down here that shows my profile, and then you here I have about me, and then my full name, a profile picture, job, and then other stuffs. Okay. Now when you come to the edit thing, you realize these same details are here, but in a form. Okay, where you can change the profile picture. Now, whilst I'm going through, I'll be telling you the bugs or limitation that needs to be enhanced. Like for instance, when I'm changing the profile picture, the next picture I choose should display here so that I'll have a fair idea of what I'm getting. But that's not in yet, so I'll do that. And also that's it. So let's just make a quick change and see if it takes effect. So I'll just choose a new picture as a profile picture. Let me see. I have this cool picture over here. Okay, so I'll just use this picture as a profile picture. So it was supposed to change it so that I'll see that like this is really what I'm getting. But the cool thing is we have the file name here which shows that there's a change. And the username is Razor Sardone. So let's just change it to something else and see how this works. So let me make it root and then delete, and then that's okay. Let's just save this. You save the changes and you realize that profile has been changed. Okay, now username is rootlet, and then this detail has been changed, and if we do modification for all this, it will really take effect. Now this setting module is also pending, which has to do with notification and then other stuffs. When you come to home, this another bug, this another limitation I have to fix. You realize the profile picture is still the same. So this was a static image I just used to display. So I have to change this to load the user's profile picture whilst the user is logged in. And about the purchasing, when you come to inventory, realize we have purchase order. Now this is where purchasing is done. And as I stated earlier on, I actually use API. Okay, I'm building my own API. Okay, and then this is more of like a procedure way, but like I'm actually switching it into classes. Okay, object oriented way, and that's like the version 2 of the API. But since I just want to finish these models and put them in a live phase, okay, there's no need to actually just switch to version 2. Okay, because as far as I understand, as to just continue productivity. Okay, when you are building something and then you get to a point where you feel like this needs to be enhanced, if it's not security issue or immediate, just note it as version 2 or version next, and then continue with what you are doing. Because when you keep putting things down and jumping to like new ideas, what happens is that you end up by doing a lot and then doing nothing. Okay, you keep focusing on enhancing a specific module or part of your project, but in the real sense, you've not made much progress. Okay, so I want to finish this with procedure API, request and response, and then after that I will go with classes, because I just tried with when I was printing creating a PDF and also keep showing it to the user. I actually tried to switch a bit, but I just paused, because that's what I'll use. I just use that to test how the classes will work, and it works fine. And I'll show everything in this video. So this purchase order is like purchasing an item. Okay, so assuming I'm short of a product, and then I come to the purchase order model, you realize we have a new here, and this new is descriptive. Like, it gives you a new window to create a document, a purchasing document. And we also have approve here, and then a print, and then also we have navigation over here, because you can't just I don't just want to display all documents to someone. You have to watch sequentially, and then this loads based on like the latest document. Okay, so if we have 100 created documents, okay, the last created, that's the latest one, will be the one that will be loaded first. So I'm sorting this order by like ID, like descending. When you click previous, you realize that it loads a different one. Okay, a different document, and then another previous gives another document, but you realize the previous is faded, and this is because the response is actually okay. Like, not is okay, like this is because the response is done. Okay, this is because there's no previous document. This is the first document we have in the system. That has to do with purchasing. There's no previous. And when you go to next, to the list, you also get to the list, the last document. So this is cool, and this functions proper. And then the print option also works. So just observe this. When I click on print, so there's a response, and then this is the purchase order, and you realize that we can compare this window and see that this is actually accurate. So the figures over here, like for instance, our total amount is the same as our total amount here, and then our list transactions are the same with item, barcode, description, packing, and then quantity, unit cost, and total cost. So prepared by the user, and then also pending. Yes, the status is pending. So this is the thing. So when this is approved, it will change to approve, and then we can go ahead to purchase and make a GRN. Now there are options I feel I should add here, which are not here. So that's in the version next. That's the send option, because you don't have to call someone to tell it, oh, I've prepared a document, can you please approve it for me? No, there should be an option that when you're done with this and you click the send, okay, automatically you should send an email with an attachment to the concerned person who is supposed to approve this document. Okay, so assuming we said that accountant is supposed to approve this document. Okay, so what I'll do is when this button is clicked, okay, it will schedule an email. Okay, when this schedules an email, it will just go, the email will actually sync when it's time. So what I also do is I run this live on Linux, but I'm developing on Windows. Okay, so what I did is use a cron job in Linux. And then what I do is every 1 minute I check in my email queues if they are email queued. And if they are email queued, I send them using like the Django's email template. Okay. So when I click send, this will queue an email and put an attachment that this email has an attachment. So when it's time, like every 1 minute, this job run to check for if they are pending emails to send. So when there's time, and then it's sending an email and realize that okay, this is an email, this attachment, this is the recipient, it sends it with a message. So what I'll do is when I click send, it will just auto add a message that please approve this purchase, or some descriptive text. Okay, so that's the goal, and then the accountant will get to approve it, which is okay. Now let's try adding a new document. Okay, and then I will explain the interface way. So let me just explain this, the interface way and the API way. So realize this previous and next actually give me my items based on transactions, right? Now I use an API to get these stuffs, and then I also like comb through the API. Okay, I return a JSON format response. Okay, and I comb through this, and then I use jQuery to actually fill these fields, and then this custom HTMLs. And then let me just open my Postman. I use Postman to do testing. Realize in my Postman I have some tabs here that I've renamed. This is like get PO transaction. Okay, so when you come to like get a PO transaction, What is required is the entry number. Okay, now the entry number here is the PK, or if you are Django, like PK or ID. Every entry has a unique ID. Okay, and then take note of this unique ID over here. You realize, for instance, this entry, the number has PO, which is like the document char like char value for like purchasing documents, like purchasing order, like PO. And then the 999 here has to do with the location. So realize this purchase order location is test warehouse. Okay, and then the 21 is like the PK, the document number. Now this is just to make a nice document numbering, but that's okay, we don't work with this. This is just something that I kept together whilst making this available on the web page. So back to the API. Okay, we need an entry number. Okay, so when we get this entry number, let me just check my database and show you some. Just a moment. So I'm using my SQL for all these stuffs. Okay, so realize when I come to POHD, that's PO header. Okay, we have an entry like 21, and then this is the remark. Okay, and then this is the person who created it. This has to do with like foreign keys, and then this status and location ID, and then a whole bunch approve like status. Okay, so now when I come with 21, okay, it will actually fetch the HD of the 21 index. Okay, like 21 index 21, and then after fetching this 21, it will also look for transactions which the parent is like 21. Okay, so like these are the period transaction, and you realize with 20 we have only one transaction. Okay, so it will fetch this AG. Let me just a quick one. So when I create my JSON format to send with Postman and I click on send, you realize there's a response, and the response says status is 200. Okay, so now when status is 200, it's safe, like the response is valid. But if it's not 200, there's an issue, and every response has a message. Okay, so this response is 200, and the message is like a JSON format. Okay, holding like objects. Okay, the first object in this list is the header, and realize we have the entry number, the location code, location description, supplier PK, which is the person we are buying this product from, supplier description, remarks, that's like remarks, a descriptive remark of this transaction. Okay, entry date, owner, that's the person who created it, and this has to do with PKs. Okay, like foreign keys having relations with the whole database. And we also have like the PK, which is like the unique ID. Okay, now we come to transactions. Okay, and then transactions, first of all count the number of transactions we have. So realize this says we have 2 transactions. Okay, and also after counting the transactions, we also have like each transaction has a line number, the product description, barcode, packing, quantity, total quantity, unit cost, and then total cost. So now this, we don't have fields for all this. For instance, just a moment, if you realize, if I come to inventory PO transaction, okay, and then I just select all, you realize when we take 20, okay, 20 which has a transaction. Okay, you realize one thing. Okay, no, this is the product, the parent entry number 20. Okay, so realize when we look for 20, we have 2 records. Okay, you realize the product only has like 3 and 6. There's no product barcode, so these are all related. So realize when I copy this field like 3 and I come to select all from admin panel, when I come to product master and I look for this item, it will be like, it will just give me the product with this details, like which has a PK of 3. And the cool thing is, that's why working with object-oriented programming makes it easier. Okay, so like since I just started this project, I barely look at my database. All I know is things are working. But when I was doing the procedure way, I have to look at my database after every execution, because like I actually need to make sure like things are working. But with object-oriented programming, after like initial setups, if you have this feeling of everything is working, and then you just keep making. Now I have a way of handling errors. Okay, so we have an entry which is valid. What if we have an entry that doesn't exist, like 100? Okay, so when we make this request, you realize we'll get an status saying 404 and says PO entry not found, because this document does not exist. So that's how I handle the entries for the PO. Okay, and then when I'm making a new PO, okay, like I told you, I have other procedure applications that this purchasing is already implemented. The thing is, I want to integrate this so that like if there's an issue, there can be a fallback. Because I have a similar thing working live in my organization. So like this is just an enhancement. So if there's an issue, there should be a fallback, and the fallback should means like we should have that data, access to a data that like we don't have to say, oh, this is like an old version, we don't have latest data. No, it shouldn't be so. So when making a PO, okay, when making a new PO, we also make this request, okay. First, you make the HD. Now you realize I can't push this again because this has been pushed. I just don't want to push dummy data, okay. So realize one thing, that we have location ID, supplier, remarks, and then owner, okay. So when we make this PO, it populates the HD and returns the like the entry number, as in like the PK of this HD as message. So what I do in my JavaScript, okay, let me just show you an example of how this PO transaction is done. Okay, this should be detailed so that everybody will understand. So realize I have a JavaScript class here called PO, okay, and then after creating the class, I also initialize it in the same file, and then I link it in my base. What happens is when you are saving a PO, you realize there's this error check handling, okay. Now if everything checks and there's no error, okay, we again check the transactions. If there's no error in the transactions, okay, so like I'm just moving to the sweet part I want to explain. You realize we make a header request here, and I have a function called API version 2, and what this API version 2 does is it passes the API URL and the data. Just take note of my data over here. Realize this is the data, which is location, supplier, remarks, owner, and then taxable, whether this purchasing, there's tax on it or not, okay. Now when I go to my API version 2, okay, I have API call, which is the version 1 and version 2. So the link here is API / module. The app name is API, and then / the model, and then the action, okay. Now this action is like, what are we doing? Are we adding, deleting, or whatever? I just use an Ajax to send this to the same that URL, and the method is post, and then I send the data in JSON format, okay, a JSON string, and then I wait for the result. So when the result is back, I actually initialize the result with 0. When the result is back, I assign it, the response is back, I assign it to the result, and then I return the result as this. So what this API call does is it just does it, pass the data, and then it gets the response. And then now when the response is in, okay, it's in a JSON format, okay. Now let me show you my API views. So like this is like an API view, okay. So this is like let's go to PO, okay. This is like purchasing order, okay. Now making a new HD, you realize we take these same details, and then we already initialize status to 200 because like details has been accepted, and message is equals to data, okay. Now this is the data we have right now. So we just make the necessary transaction with a try and catch, okay, because I want to catch errors, okay. So if the transaction saves successfully, okay, we just return a response. You understand? So I think there's an issue here, because if I leave this response over here, okay, and the transaction goes failed, even if this try failed, it will actually return a response like successful, and the system will think it's successful. JavaScript will think it's successful. So let me just, instead of taking this out, I'll just duplicate this here. I'll take it out and then make this like 505. That's an error, so like that's cool. Now this is how this is implemented, and then when everything is done, okay, it actually returns the POHD objects, okay. It looks for all and the last PK, okay. Now this is okay because this happens fast. There won't be duplication. Even if we are creating the same order at the same time, this goes fast. This won't be duplication, like we won't have a crash. That's fine. Now back to saving the PO. So when we have the header, we just check if the header response status is 200, which means it's successful. Then the entry number is in the message, which I said. So if we are successful, we give the response message to like the last PK, and then is this last PK we use to look through our like transactions, and for each transaction we also make an API call to like what new transaction and the PO model, and then we pass this same data, and it takes this data and then it makes the transaction into the database, and when everything is done, we actually it redirects us to like all POs, okay, and then we see the latest one. Now this is just how this is implemented in a code, but like in practice, let's try something, okay, and see the errors. So when I click on new PO, I get a new screen that says creating PO. Okay, now notice something. When I try to save this document, there's an error saying procedure error. Location is empty. So select supplier, empty remarks. Now, this is where I told you I do error checking before I proceed with the PO. Okay, so this is the header error checking. From here, okay, I check if these stuffs are none, and then if the remarks length is 0, and then I show the error message. Okay, so I already initialize error count to 0 and error message to error, and then percentage. I'm using suite alert. Okay, so I have a function called error handler, and what this error handler does is I created this function. It takes a response, okay, like a message, and then it splits it based on two percentages. So the first one determines what happens. Let me just show you what it does. Okay, so you realize I take the response. Okay, I split it into two by this percentage, and then if the length of the new array, okay, is equals to 2, this is just the type is the first array index, and then the message is the second. So if the type is done, okay, so I show the type. If the type is done, I show some positive. If it's error, I show some other message. So that's okay. So if there's an error, we can't proceed. We just show an error says, okay, let's fill this. Now let me just make this correction and see. So when I select a supplier and I save, you realize now we have two. Location empty. Okay, so let me select location. And then I save this. And it says remarks is empty. Okay, so now let me just make some cool remarks. Okay, let me copy this Lorem text and then make a cool remark. Okay, after making this cool remark, let's try saving. Okay, there's another error too. It says can not save document with empty transactions. Yes, that's valid because we just have a document header, but there's no transaction, and the transaction is in this whole box. Okay, you guys, we have line number, barcode, description, pack quantity. I also have a JavaScript function, okay, that does this way. And what this function does is there's a search box, a general search box for product, and for when you find a product, there's a function like there's a like a method, like a function, a method in a class in JavaScript I've created. Okay, and what this method does is it takes an item barcode, run an API to get the item details, because I also have an API that returns an item. Okay, now look at this. We have this method that says get product. There should be a get product, like this get product, for instance. When I pass the barcode and I take send, okay, what happens is it returns the status 200. Okay, and then this is the product group in like sub objects. Okay, in message we also have an object called group, and in this group we have the group name and then the subgroup, and in tags we have the tag component, the tags description, the tags rate, and in supplier we have the supplier of this product and product details, and even we have images. Each product has an image. When I click on this, you realize this opens a cool image for a product, and this is not a product, but that's just the image we've set for a product right now. So it returns this. Now all this data is not needed for filling for creating a purchase order. Like we don't need the image of the product, but the goal is you have to think like not think ahead when programming. Okay, you have to consider the options. Okay, if you are giving access to someone to use this data, okay, maybe someone is making their own gathering of data. I mean, just give them something. Just give them, try to give them something that's not limited. So you have an image of the product and other details. More details will be added to this product, okay, in the future. So like all these details should be returned in a JSON format so that another developer can come with their own language that they are using and have access to this. It doesn't matter. And so that's the cool thing about using Postman, okay. When you come to this code, you realize we have popular programming languages. This same call I'm doing with what this is basically Python. Okay, this is showing a Python code. Now when I switch to C and then red sharp, this is the code I'll use to call and get this response. So like if you are working with APIs and this API has a documentation on like something like a language, maybe this API has a documentation on Python and you're not good at Python, so you want to use PHP, just get those URLs and authentication. Okay, you come to Postman, paste it, and then switch to your language. It will give you a cool code to just copy and paste. And you don't just copy, you try to read and understand it so that next time you don't have to copy and paste, you know your way around. Okay, so getting all these product details like product packing and stuff, they are all necessary. Okay, and I'll explain to you why. So in the search, when I click insert row, okay, it executes a modal, and in this modal, when I start typing, it search and brings out product. Now this search result doesn't look sweet, but that's okay. It works, and that's progressive. Okay. When you click on add here, it add it to the list. Okay, and look at this thing. When I add second item, it does. But when I click on the same item again, it doesn't mind, because like what I do is when I click on add, okay, this table here, okay, let me just find uh this class and try to explain it, then it will make more sense. Okay, so I have my statics over here, and I have general, I have JavaScript, and then there's classes, and then there should be classes for products. Okay, and then this should be the class, the okay, field transaction list. Okay, so you take the barcode as I told you, product request, you pass the request and the barcode, you get your response. If the response is 200, yes, there's product, and then you get all the details for the product. Okay, so now after getting the details for the product, this is where we do validation when inserting. Okay, now we our table has a class, our table body has a class of TB. Okay, and we get the length of child elements, which are TR. So for every role in this element, like in this container, okay, for every child in this element, okay, we look through, and if we have a record that has a barcode that matches, you realize every barcode has like barcode underscore SN has to do with like the length. Okay, now if we find a duplicate of an item, we don't add it, but if we don't find a duplicate, that's if item exists is less than one, we append it. Okay, so that's the cool thing. So right now, if I try to add, you see this item like this, it has an ID that is unique. If I try to add this item to this row, you say now this item exists, and it won't. And right now, if I try saving this, there's supposed to be an error, but I don't know if I've checked that. Okay, that's to say we can't save an item with zero cost, because I'm making purchase of this baking soda and also an energy drink. Now the quantity I'm buying is 1, but the unit cost is 0 and the total cost is 0. No, we can't make purchase for this. Now let me try saving and see. Okay, so there's an error. Okay, and this error is very dated. It says line 1, unit cost is invalid. Line 1, total cost is invalid. And then that's okay. Now immediately you change this, you realize automatic calculation happens for the total. So let's say I'm buying 5. Okay, and then after buying 5, each costs 100. Okay, now I should pay 500 for this. That's valid. And here I'm buying 3, and each costs like 75. So if the math is wrong, it's right. I should pay 225 for this. Now this is okay. This document is valid. Okay, and with a save button, okay, the tax, it will just insert all this into various records and then show me this item. Okay, now when I click on save, okay, that's an issue. So I've clicked on save and there's a problem. Now we just have to debug this and see what's the problem. Okay, so there's an issue here, and then it says there's an issue. The interesting thing is I can't read this message from the console log. It's not presentable like in Postman, but I can go to this thing, my console, my ID, and when I open my terminal, I can see the logs here, and then it should take me to the line. This is the line with the error. Okay, and it says it can't return this. It can't return this. Okay, so let's just see. Let's try. Let's solve this issue. Let me clear this whole thing, and then let's see, clear buffer. Okay, we can't clear this buffer. Now let's see what's wrong, because this is how we have to be solving problems. So it can't return a response, right? Now let's see, new transaction. This is PO, new HD, new transaction. Okay, now if new transaction is saved, let me just see what's happening. That's one thing about things working some minutes ago and things not working right now. That's one thing. So where is it this going wrong? So what I think I'll do is pass the same I'll also log this what is being submitted to the server to save, okay? And when I console log this, we'll see where the problem is, whether it's from the header or like not from the header. So what I'll do is look for my API, okay? So when I look for my API version 2, so I'll console table the data that is being sent, okay? So I have the data that is being sent here, then I'll console table, and from this we can see what's wrong, okay? So just a refresh, just a hard refresh to actually load the JavaScript again, and then now we create a new document. So I'll select my supplier, and then tax is yes, and then the remark will be please work this time, and then yes. So add an item. We'll just add two same items, and then this is 150, this is 75. We are buying three pieces of this, three pieces, and then we are buying four pieces of this, and then we have our value, okay? So now when I open console log to just check how this data is being logged, okay, and I click on save, so this is what is being sent to the server, right? And then that is where the error comes in, okay? So we can't even create a header, and the problem here is because there's an issue with the header, okay? Now let me see what's wrong, okay? So we come back to our API. This is the views for API. Now since we notice the issue has to do with new header, but this is showing in transactions. Just a moment. View, and then okay, that's general. So the problem has to do with creating a header, new PO header. So let me expand this, and then let's see what. So this is what we are submitting: location, supplier, remarks, owner, taxable. So we have location, supplier, remarks, owner, taxable. Yes, this is valid. So what's the problem? Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, let's just do it this way. Okay, there's a copy here, there's a copy here, and I'll just come to my pictures, create a new file. I just want to read this error and then get it in a plain view so that we can see what's wrong. So I'll create a new text file. No, this wasn't what I wanted to create. And so we come to new, and then like a new text document. So we say error.html, and then we first of all edit this with notepad plus plus. I'll just paste this and save, and then open this with my same browser, and let's see. So this is what object type integer error is not JSON format. Object type integer error is not. I think the problem has to do with this cannot save the header. So let's try it this way, okay? Let's just try it this way. So I think it can't save the header, and the error cannot be displayed as JSON, like as in an object, okay? So let me change this to like string, and let's see. So I'll just say string, and then this result, okay? Now let's try saving this document again and see what happens. Okay, column approved data cannot be null. Okay, fine. So you see the problem? This is one thing about the programming and one thing about debugging, but that's okay. I have a column set that is like approved date, and it says it can't be null. Like, why can't this column be null? Why can't this column be null? That's my problem, because it's supposed to be an approved date. So what I'll just do is let me do this trick, okay? So I'll say approved date is equals to not yet, but this is a date and time thing, so I don't know if this will work, but let's just try, okay? This is a date and time thing, okay? So let's try this again and then save this document, and it says it's invalid. It should match year, month, and date format. So let me just change, because I actually want to keep track of approved dates, okay? So this is having an issue. Fine, let me just put some dummy data in the approved date, and that'll be fine. let me just put some dummy data like 1999 01 01. So this is a date, and then this should work. So let's try saving again, and then let's see. Okay, approved time cannot also be null. Really? Now let me just put that, and then approved time is also equals to 000000. Now this will work hopefully, and when we click on save, yes, document has been saved successfully, and then it will load our new document we just created. So like it's okay. Sometimes you do something, you meet bugs, and it work. So realize this item is taxable. This is the taxable amount. This is the tax amount, and then this is the 975. Now this tax amount has to do with custom. In my country, calculating tax is a weird is in a weird form, but that's okay. So now this document has been created and saved successfully. Let's create another item that is not taxable, another transaction, so that we just confirm that this tax apply. So the same supplier, and then I will create a different location, and then the tax we set it to no, and then we just say hello no tax, and then this let's just add a quick item like this heavy spray, and then the quantity is 1 and the unit cost is 130, and then we just save this document. Now the document is saved. I realize that since the tax is set to no, the taxable amount is the same as the total amount. And when you click on this print document, it actually does printing the same document. Okay. And then when you navigate to the previous document, click on print, it prints this same previous document for you. And then this is so far the progress. What's next is creating a GRN. Before that, we have to approve this document and also yes. So I'll be sharing the progress, and then it should be fun.